Hello, so welcome to my Japanuary event where I talk about my experiences traveling to Japan for the first time. For this video, I'm clumping up a couple stories of the subway systems. Japan is pretty famous for its trains, and I've already gushed about their punctuality. It was great for foreigners without international licenses, and especially me, who doesn't drive ever, so public transportation is my bestie. By the end of our trip, which was 3 weeks, me and my partner felt pretty confident navigating the JR lines and Shinkansen stations. We did have a couple hiccups along the way though. I'm going to share those little stories and then add some value by giving a tip of what I learned from the experience. So our first hiccup was literally on arrival. We got from the airport to Tokyo Station and then we got totally lost. Well, we knew we were at Tokyo Station, but we found ourselves at an intersection indoors where we couldn't find any of the line names or numbers that Google Maps had told us to be looking for. We still had to check into our hotel, like we just arrived in Japan, so we opted to go above ground and get a taxi, just to be safe, to be punctual. And on that note, the taxis were really nice. We got in a line, and there was a worker stationed there to hail over taxis and manage traffic, so all we had to do was step up and get in. The taxi doors are automated, which is kind of cool. The taxis themselves were a little expensive comparatively, but it also wasn't as painful as driving in any other large cities. When the lights are green, the traffic is moving, they zoom around because they don't have to worry about jaywalkers. Imagine that. So this story provides a couple things to know about Japan if you're planning to visit. When it comes to cabs, the doors are automatic, so don't touch them. They are more expensive, but more direct. Have your destination ready for the driver in Japanese before getting in. Consequently, as a pedestrian, as I've mentioned in another video, there is no jaywalking, so wait for the green lights. Back to the stations though. The most important thing that I learned about navigating the stations is not to trust the color coding of the name of the subway line that Google Maps displays. Most, if not all, of the subway lines in JR and so forth have an associated color, so it's easy to follow that color through the station until you find that corresponding terminal, but Google Maps doesn't always provide that specific color when it's displaying the line names. And sometimes it's totally wrong because they're not actually associating the appropriate color to the instructions they're telling you, they're just color coding their instructions, which can get quite confusing. The most helpful way that I found to not get lost was to look at Google Maps to get the name of the station, line, and platform. And that's it. Don't try following Google Maps instructions. Get the name of the train that you're trying to get on, enter the station, and start trailing the signs on your own. Doing that, you won't have a preconceived notion of what color you're trying to follow. Also, if at any point you find that you don't see the next sign leading you to your gate, don't panic. I found that if you keep walking in the general direction that you were going, you will usually find the signs again, or some other map or guidance tool to point you back in the right direction. As travelers with a fair bit of anxiety, we found that there were some stretches without a lot of signage where we'd get stuck and worried that we'd gone the wrong way. It would hang us up, and all we really had to do was have faith and keep walking a bit before everything would become clear again. That hesitation messed us up more than anything else. Now to continue story time, the next hiccup that we had was a couple weeks later. We hopped on a line, I forget which one, doesn't really matter, that'd take us where we wanted to go for the day. There were a few signs around the station warning about delays, but only by less than 10 minutes, so we weren't really worried about it, and we weren't in a hurry. So we got on ours at the predestined time, and it went for 3 stops or so down the line before stopping, and then everyone got off. It wasn't an immediate thing. The longer the train sat, the more people trickled off, which was the suspicious part. We'd been on a car alone before, and had a car mostly entirely empty at a popular stop, but the amount of time that was passing and the train not moving was certainly odd. We sat and we waited, and some people got back on, so we just shrugged and didn't worry about it. We had no idea why it was stopping at the station for over 10 minutes at a time, but again, we weren't in a hurry. And then, eventually, the train started moving again. But it was going backwards. Back to where we originally came from. So in the end, we made it 3 stops forward and 1 step back, where we immediately got off again and got on the next train going by instead. I have no idea what happened there. The second line we got on made it all the way to our final destination, like the first one was intended to. We should have gotten off once we got suspicious by the lack of people, but we didn't hear any announcements, and we truly thought someone might have told us if the train was going to pull a reverse Uno, but, no harm was really done. The lesson in this story is, well, I'm not quite sure. I don't know exactly what we could have done to prevent the backtracking, aside from trusting our intuition that something was up and preemptively gotten off the car. I guess the moral is to ask station staff whenever you have any questions. Even if they aren't fluent in English or you're not fluent in Japanese, so long as you have the Japanese names of where you're trying to get, they are always so friendly and so helpful and will make sure that you get where you need to go. My last subway story is the embarrassing one. So the thing is, all of the station platforms compared to the door of the trains themselves are always pretty even. Like, it's basically a flat run, And I guess I'd adjusted to that knowledge throughout the trip subconsciously. So near the end of our trip, on literally one of our last days back in Tokyo, when we were rushing to get on a car in Ikebukuro, I'd been conditioned not to have to step on the train with my foot, like not have to lift my foot so much. And I clipped my foot on the edge because this particular train was higher from the platform than all of the other ones I'd ever been on, and I absolutely ate shit. I full on sprawled onto the floor of the car, scraped my knee pretty good, and almost took a lady down with me. I sumimasened and was flushed red, like so embarrassed. I had been in a bit of a rush to hop on the train, so it looked like the whole incident was because I was carelessly running around, and less like I fell because of the lip on the door, which I no doubt would have tripped on no matter what. Like, I trip on flat surfaces on a daily basis. At least in those cases, I don't fall flat on the ground, and I actually manage to catch myself. But the point is that I hated that I looked like a shitty foreigner disobeying the rules. There's literally signs all over the train, inside and out, that tell you not to rush when getting on. Of all things, I'm glad that that happened at the end of our trip and not the start. And I'm especially glad that I didn't absolutely smash the shit out of the figurine that I bought and was holding when I went down. So, the moral of the last story is to pick up your feet and don't rush onto cars. You don't want to disappoint the Toei transportation mascot like I did, do you? Look at Tauron. Don't make Tauron sad. Anyway, I hope my stories were amusing and a little bit informative. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.